What's up, y'all? Welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. I'm happy to have you here. As you can see, I am not in my usual environment. I'm in the car. That's because I've been traveling and I still just wanted to get this video out there. So even though I feel a little bit out of place and I feel a little uncomfortable because this is not my usual, we're just gonna go with it. We're just gonna release this message and that's it. I had a little story that I wanted to share with y'all and then something that I took away from that story. So along the lines of the message that I wanted to share this week is that God might take you the long way, but you're still going to get to your destination. And the way that this kind of all came about is, so I was actually traveling down back home for Thanksgiving. And for those who don't know, I live in New York, but I'm originally from Virginia. I've done that drive quite a bit, having to go back and forth between the two states. I won't say that I know exactly how to get to one place from the other without a GPS, but I do have a general idea of where I'm going. I can notice and recognize certain maybe landmarks or buildings that will remind me, okay, I know that I'm on the right track. The thing is, on Thanksgiving, traveling down for Thanksgiving, there was a lot more traffic, which was to be expected. With my GPS, usually it will take me on whichever route it thinks is the fastest. And I can also indicate I want to go this specific direction. And so that's usually what I do at the very beginning of the drive, is that I know where I'm going. I know the direction, at least, that I'm going. I know that it's what's familiar for me. Well, this particular day, because there was so much traffic that was happening because everybody was on the road, it kept telling me over and over that there's a faster route. You can save 23 minutes by going this way. You can save 8 minutes going this way. And so it would keep popping up on my phone for me to either accept it or ignore it and just say I'll stick on the path that I've been going. And I was driving when it was dark out. So what ended up happening is that there was one point very early on in my drive where it said, do you want to accept this change? And I'm thinking that it's going to save me 20 minutes. So I'm like, yeah, accept that. I definitely want to save the time. So I click on accept. But the only problem now is that it had put me on a path that I was completely unfamiliar with. It took me all the way off of the interstate. And now instead, I'm on like these back roads. It's dark. It's sketchy. I don't know where I am. I'm not familiar with this territory at all. There was a lot happening. They had construction going on the roads. There was so much stuff out there on the roads and you couldn't even really see. So now, instead of really just saving the time, I'm over here adding time on because now I'm uncomfortable. Now I'm freaking out. I really don't know what's going on. I'm not in a place that's familiar. I don't know where I'm going. Granted, yes, I have the GPS that's trying to route me in different spaces, but I'm completely uncomfortable with this drive. Something that I could have been familiar with, it no longer was working. I literally was just praying, like, Lord, what in the world? Why did I even hit accept? I should have just stayed on the path that I knew. I should have stayed on what was comfortable for me because I know that this particular path is going to get me where I need to go. I was asking, I was like, God, there has to be something in this, because this happened a couple of times. And the first 2 times, I really won't learn my lesson. I kept hitting accept and it kept taking me off course into territory that was completely unfamiliar to me and very stressful, to the point where I was like, nope, put me back on the path that I had been on. And then it just added time ultimately anyway. I was asking, I was like, Lord, what is it about this that I was supposed to either take a message away from? Like, what was I supposed to learn from this experience? And I think the takeaway message that I had to have is that it's okay that it was going to take you longer, because that way it was going to have less issues and less obstacles along the way. What you thought was going to be quicker actually ended up taking you longer because you had more obstacles that you ended up facing that the GPS didn't account for. There was road work being done. There were red lights that I had to keep starting and stopping at. And let me tell you, when I'm making them long drives, one thing I do not like is having to start and stop at a whole bunch of lights. And that was what was happening on the other path. So even though, yes, the GPS thought that this was going to be quicker because you're not going to have the traffic, it didn't account for the fact that I was still going to be starting and stopping at red lights. It didn't account for the fact that there was construction on the road. It didn't account for any of that. So it ended up taking me longer because I had to go back on the path that I was originally on that wasn't actually going to take as long as I anticipated. So that was my lesson that I had to learn, is that it might have seemed like this path was going to take you longer, but this is the one that I wanted you on, because I knew what was going to happen if you took one of the other paths that seemed to be quicker. The GPS thought that this was going to be quicker, but it really wasn't, because you were going to have to keep stopping over and over and over. You were going to have to stop at construction. You were going to have to stop at things that were in the middle of the road. You were going to have to go a slower speed in that case too, because on the interstate, you're going a certain speed, and then when you get off on the back roads, you're going much slower. So I felt like I had to learn the lesson that just because God was taking me the long way doesn't mean that I was not going to get to my destination. And him taking me the long way could have really just been protection from what he knew I wasn't going to want to deal with on going the back roads. There was a reason that God was taking me the way that he was taking me. And just because it looked like there was a different option that was more favorable and it wasn't going to take as long, you never know what's happening on the path that you want to go that God doesn't want you to go. And I was also thinking about in Exodus, and there was a particular scripture in there, and it was when, let me actually just pull it up. It was in chapter 13, starting at verse 17, where it says, "Then it came to pass when Pharaoh had let the people go, that God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest perhaps the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. So God led the people around by way of the wilderness of the Red Sea." So I think me kind of connecting that to it, God did not take them the shorter path. He took them the longer path because he knew what could happen along the way. So just because God takes you a longer path does not mean that you will not get to your destination. And it could be protection. God's delay does not mean his denial. So just because he's taking you a little bit longer of a way to get to where you're trying to go, you will still get where you're trying to go. God will make sure of that. And also he will make sure that you are not encountering certain things. There could be something that is going on that would stop you from continuing on your journey and would instead set you to go backwards. So God's not going to take you the short way sometimes, and that's okay. But just stay on the path that God is telling you to do, even when it feels like it's taking too long, even when it feels like it's not working, even when it feels like you could save a lot more time doing it a different way. Do it God's way and just watch that he will still get you where you need to go. Alrighty, y'all. So that is all that I had to share. I hope this was helpful. Hopefully this video comes out somewhat decent. I don't know. Already, it's going to be different than my other videos, but hey, it is what it is. I felt like this was still something that I wanted to share. I wanted to put out there. And so hopefully it blessed you in some sort of way. Hopefully y'all had a great Thanksgiving. I know it's been a little bit since Thanksgiving by the time this gets posted, but hopefully you enjoyed your Thanksgiving and hopefully you are having a great start to your December, and hopefully that you will have an even better ends of the year. We'll see what is to come. We'll see. I'm excited to see what God is going to do before this year is over because I believe that he's got something up his sleeve. Alrighty, y'all. That is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.